Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, or welcome back if this is your second Tom Swift episode review. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week was doing a-okay. All that sort. I'm very thankful this week is not that hot. I'm very thankful because I would be sweating right now. Maybe I will be sweating. We'll see how long this goes. This week on Tom Swift, the search is afoot. We're on the case to get these pieces, and I'm still surprisingly saying, like, this doesn't feel... How do I say this? It's the same thing I had with Nancy Drew, where I thought Nancy Drew was going to be a certain thing. Tom Swift was going to be a certain thing. And it's not. But I like it. I like it. We don't really get too much focus on the actual, we got to hunt down these pieces as fast as we can. They're kind of taking it chill, taking their sweet time, because I don't know, like, I'm honestly, I forgot for a second this is a TV show with a budget. Because as soon as episode 1 ends, like, we got all these fancy schmancy coordinates all over the map. And so I was thinking to myself, like, well, they're probably going to go on a globe-trotting adventure each and every week. But they don't. We maybe make a visit to the forest, and then another forest, and then a forest. All nearby, or it kind of looks like nearby, which they all live in New York, so. Well, New York State, not New York City. Or maybe they do. I don't know. They're really quite clear on that. Besides the obvious budget constraints, I still think this was a pretty solid episode. It was mostly focusing on the characters, which, again, is always the main motivation for me to watch these shows. Is that you got strong characters, you got strong motivation, you got strong directions for them, you're going to go far, even if the story is, in a hypothetical sense, could be a piece of crap. It wasn't in this case. It made sense because we got to know more about Tom as a character. We got to, like, flesh out his current, his current relationships with all of his connecting characters of sorts, and it just worked out to be a pretty solid episode. Not really too much progress on the whole, like, actually trying to find his dad part. I mean, again, his dad is in the middle of space, and Tom's wife, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. I don't know. There's not that much of a sense of urgency for a rich guy, and I don't know, like, maybe they're taking it a little bit too chill in my opinion, but otherwise, I think this was a solid episode. But let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Tom Swift. Also, someone clarified to me in the comments last week that we're only getting 10 episodes this season, which I'm like, you know what? If you could tell a tighter story in 10 episodes, I'm all for it. I was expecting 13 because that's just the traditional CW order of, like, you get 13 episodes at least to tell your story, and then you're out. 10 is fine. I'm not really complaining that too much. It could still be 13. I don't really know. I know because apparently someone was comparing to the CW schedules for the summer. So it kind of aligns with 10 weeks, which I'm like, you know what? Again, if it's 10 weeks, tighter story, let's go. Which means, like, we really don't got much time to waste. But let's get down to it. So they arrive at their first stop on their globe-trotting tour, well, their statewide tour, to find all these satellite pieces to uncover Tom's dad's final message to potentially where he is right now. And sadly, while they find the wreckage, they don't find the piece. So it turns out, there was the big missile, and then that exploded, and then the little pieces exploded. So you got the wreckage pieces, and then you got the actual component somewhere else out there, which I'm like, Jesus. So it's like they're gonna go find the wreckage, and then they're gonna go find the actual piece itself on top of that. Like, they just wasted all that gas money for nothing. But they were able to track the trajectory of this one piece, and they determined that the location of where the satellite piece is in the middle of basically their rivals' land. I'm so very much in tune with what Walker's doing right now with their family feud. I don't even got time to recognize another family feud. It's another family they hate, another rich family that has always hated them. They hate them as well, so it's very much a hate fest all around, and Tom does not want to get involved in them whatsoever. But to be civil, as well as they don't really know who's involved with the road back or what their motivations are, they're opting to try and keep this civil as they can so that they can get in maybe peacefully, get out peacefully, and that's about the end of the story. So they have to suck it up and kind of go in there. So Tom decides to talk to his mom in order to kind of get in with his mom to kind of coordinate this dinner of the family, so to speak, since Tom, I'm assuming he does not want to hit them up on their DM. So I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. I know we get a little bit of a side tangent back at the airplane when they're heading back home, that Z was a little bit surprised that Tom's bodyguard, which again, I'm still knowing the names. Hopefully by the end of this run, I will know everyone's names, but bear with me. Z is surprised that Tom's bodyguard is transgender, as well as that he is bi. Well, Tom clarifies to her saying that, well, no, he's not bi. He's just pansexual, meaning that he will find he's open to any sort of romantic connection. So that could be with guys, girls, anything in between. So, which is fair. Which he doesn't have a problem with. Her problem is that he's always watching Tom when he's basically, how do I say this? When he's not clothes. Well, when he's clothes from the waist down, but not from the waist up. So her clarification is like, I don't want to date someone who has an interest in you, because that's just going to create a conflict, or could create a conflict, and you don't want to create a conflict. You really don't. You all are minor adults. You're all young adults. You don't want to be ruining your good times or whatsoever. So she's not interested in him anymore. Well, for now, we'll see how things go in the next few episodes, but we leave it there. Tom goes to talk to his mom, who is finishing up a meeting with Claire, the current interim CEO, which Tom doesn't really like, because again, his dad made her interim CEO when he went out to his spaceship instead of him. So he's not mad 100% at her. He's just, mad that, right now control over the company is to her. So he's not currently happy on that. So he talks to his mom about this potential dinner, just, to kind of squash the beef a little bit, start to like grow our connections with our other friends and family, since we had this major loss in our family, which the excuse does work on his mother. And apparently his mother's mostly over the things he cost her last episode. So she's like, okay, you know what? You got a point. Let's go organize a dinner. Let's go make this happen. Also, coincidentally, last episode ended with the road back, as well as that congressman hacking into Barclay, which is Tom's AI. And I thought that, it was going to be a big thing until the penultimate episode where they figure it out, and that's when they have to shift the conflict over to them. But no, Tom already knows in the second episode that, someone hijacked the AI, and they're inside. Tom's not really paying much mind to it, since Tom is super smart and has developed like very advanced firewall, so Barley wouldn't even begin to feel any sort of effects of an attack. So it's all good. It's fine. They also determined that the person who caused this hacking was the bodyguard the same time last week, who was also the bodyguard of the congressman, who's also part of the road back. So a lot of potential side changings here, but it is what it is right now. So Tom's going to leave it alone. He's got to focus on the mission, try and find his dad. So, and also focus all of his energy to this dinner with this family that he does not really like, especially their eldest son. So we cut to the dinner, which is very weird table settings. Like, you got the mother and father of the other family in the end corner. Then you have Tom's mom right next to her, to the wife, and then you separate Tom and Z with the older son. And there's like a massive weird space. I'm like, you know what? I don't question how rich people do it. I really don't. I'm gonna leave it like that. But I'm just saying, like, that's just weird, like, table placement. That's just weird seating placement, in my opinion. So at first they're joking around, trying to like break the ice, trying to like, get into a groove where it's like, yeah, we still don't like each other 100%, but we're trying to tolerate, we're trying to get there. But however, the other guy, the other son, he starts bringing up examples of Tom's past that Tom isn't exactly comfortable with. Like, one time, Tom had a big crush supposedly on the lifeguard, and as a joke / kind of sign of deception, he took his Speedo away after one session, and the guy had to go back home in his towel, and Tom's dad found out, and he got really mad because he's not supposed to do that. And the family's basically making fun of Tom for doing this, childish thing. I mean, again, he was a kid, so it wasn't really that, plausible to believe, but they're still making fun of it. Tom is trying his best to hold it in as best he can, but he snaps at them, and his mom tries to soften the blow, tries to like cover it up, but the damage is done already. They already know what he means. Z implores him to try and make amends with them, especially with the father, but the father's like, you know what? Yeah, the wine probably got to you, man. It's all right. It's cool. And then Tom goes into his pitch of like, got some experimental fuel on your side. Maybe me and Z can go crack a look at it so that we can maybe do some very basic tests on it to see what its potential is. And he just says no. Because he can see through Tom's bullshit, like, yeah, no, you're not accessing my mind. If you think something's valuable there, I'll go find it myself. Like, you don't need to touch it. So That plan definitely ended. Also, while they're going through dinner, Tom's bodyguard is doing a quick survey of of their land, not Tom's land, the other family's land, and it's protected by apparently a very state-of-the-art, high-tech security fence. This looks like your generic security fence to me. Again, I know budgeting, so it looks all right. I could believe this is something that's kind of impenetrable if you touch it, but it is something that, it doesn't look that impressive. But again, I'm not trying to be too critical on just what the budget allows them to do. So he's looking at the cracks, looking at if there's any way to try and get in there. So he's off doing that. They regroup again, and I want to say, no, I know they regroup, and I know Z's kind of bummed out that Tom didn't really act civilly, and they don't really have a plan, but Tom's like, you know what? Well, there's always another way. We'll figure out a plan B somehow. I'm not sure if this is the moment where no, we don't get to that moment yet. I know Z attempts to try and fix the shit between Tom and the other son, but this time without the parents there, the other son's a complete jackass. He's basically demanding an apology from Tom, saying that, you owe me an apology. And Tom's like, I don't owe you shit. Z at first is flabbergasted that Tom knows his dad's life is at stake, but he's willing to suck it up. But Tom brings up an example from when he was a child with this guy, that when they were growing up, Tom already came out by that point, and this guy supposedly really did not like him. So to teach him a little bit of a lesson, he takes him on a man test, which basically puts them through his family's caves, which has a lot of acidic, residue there. So it should not be safe for any sort of walking, but they both go in, and for his test, he has to stay there with his eyes covered for 5 minutes, and then he'll come and get him back out. Which, spoiler warning, he hasn't come back at all. So Tom stays there for hours. Not a clue what's going on. He gets lost. He gets bundled. He gets bruised. He gets scratched. He gets a little bit of a burn on his eyebrow. He looks like a mess when he comes out. And when he comes back the next time to see him for an apology from him, he says, "I only did it for you because you're too gay. Like it was meant to bring you down a couple pegs." You, sir, I know you're gonna say, like, "Oh, they're kids." Like, no. That excuse doesn't fly anymore. That really doesn't. Because again, you don't bring someone to a cave that clearly is dangerous just for the sake of teaching them a lesson. You really don't. Like, they could have died. Tom could have died, and it would have been his fault. But thankfully, Tom didn't. So thankfully that happened. But still, it wasn't right for him to do. So that's why Tom doesn't want to apologize to him at all. Because why should he apologize for something that, this entire feud between them started from what this guy stupidly did to them all those years ago. Z understands the story, but he's bummed that Tom didn't tell her sooner, because if they're supposed to be best friends, you're supposed to be honest with each other, because, again, like, especially childhood best friends, like, there really shouldn't be no secrets between you two. It's something that you kind of gone through, like, you should have had that level of trust that, hey, I trust you a lot. Here's this big thing about me that you should know about so that you understand where I'm coming from. Trust me, I do that with my best friends all the time. I still have my childhood best friends, and they know everything about me, so I do understand Z's point, but Tom he says it best later in the episode, but he's like, he doesn't want anyone to feel bad for Tom Swift. Tom's supposed to be a badass. He's supposed to be this genius. He's supposed to be this sassy, confident person. To allow anyone, even his best friend, see him as, like, not like that is something that he doesn't feel comfortable doing, especially back at the time. So that's why he didn't feel like telling anyone this. But at the time, Tom's like, he brushes this off, saying that, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm done with this. We're just going to find another way to get in there. I know we got a subplot with Tom's mom still wheeling from her husband's death, and still the uncertainty if Tom is really ready to be CEO full-time once the interim period is over. Claire is, again, just following protocol that, yes, she is the interim CEO, but she hopes that Tom's recent behavior would maybe convince his mom, who basically has now the controlling interest, to appoint Claire as the full-time CEO once her interim period is over. But she's not budging an answer right now because she's still hoping that Tom will change at the last minute to be ready for it. But Claire doesn't want that. She wants to be the CEO full-time. But Tom's mom mentions that I've been having trouble sleeping because, with his death and dealing with Tom and just trying to, like, manage this new life of mine. It's not something that she's able to sleep through at times. So Claire decides to do her a favor to try and find something at Swift and Industries to be able to kind of remedy her situation. Also, I forgot to mention Tom's workplace, the industry. I was not expecting that every freaking cubicle is actually a cubicle. It's a freaking it's like the Ice Cube from 22 Jump Street, except it just looks a little bit more tempered. So I'm just thinking to myself, Jesus, that's a cool company. I would actually work there. Just saying. So Team Swift reunites at Tom's lab, let's call it. I'm so used to these terminologies. This is not the first time this is not my first rodeo, but still, it takes me a while to come up with the terms. So now that the family, getting the family's approval is off the table, now they got to sneak in somehow. They find that there's a nearby mine entrance outside their property that they could get to and sneak into. The only problem is if they go down that way, it's a very acidic pathway that if any one of them was to go down there without any sort of protection, they're going to die. So they decide to build this like super suit that should chemically protect Tom and also protect the body, so they can go in and get out and do that sort. Just in case with the security fence, Tom's bodyguard manages to find a situation to remedy that so that there isn't any sort of issue when they're at the other side. So they got that handled. I'm trying to remember if there's any other component I'm missing. Yeah, I know there's some banter with like Tom's supposed uniform that it's something that Lady Gaga wore or Rihanna, or I want to say it's Rihanna. And he was very bummed that they had to rip it up, and he was like, you know what? Fine. For my father, you can rip up the dress. Which I love the way he's like, I do it. He's like, he's in pain doing it because it's still his moral character, but he's got to do it for his dad. He's got no choice there. I want to say we head over to the site next, but I'm pretty sure... No, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yeah, so we're at the site, and he's about to take down the security fence with a noise-canceling or a noise-piercing EMP, let's call it. I don't know what the technological terms are for that. So they blow that out. Tom is sadly forgot to put on some earplugs to block the pain, so he gets hit pretty hard by it, and he's just like very disoriented, which I thought was going to be a big indicator that he was going to go down in this mission, but no, it was just a funny joke. So they head over to the side, which very poorly protected side. Let me tell you that. Like, it's literally just a hole in the ground with wood that makes it like it's like they were trying to build some sort of barrier over it, but they never finished it. And I'm pretty sure they're in the public forest, so I'm pretty sure that, again, anyone could just waltz in here. So I don't know why they did this. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. So they get Tom ready to go in. He heads in there and slowly wheels his way out. Z and the bodyguard have a conversation about, Tom itself and, the bodyguard's orientation, and that, he shouldn't be waiting around for Tom if Tom isn't noticing him as a potential, actual viable partner, so to speak. But he doesn't really get to answer the question or really give a comment on it, because eventually Tom gets stuck in the middle of the mines halfway through the path. So C has to go down there to go save him. So she does so. They both go down there. They find the piece pretty quickly. Or no, they have a fight about the whole, why didn't Tom tell her pretty sooner about his issue with the guy. And that's where I mentioned before, that's where it comes into play. So they forgive and forget, they make up, and they head over to the satellite piece, which is, I really don't know how it landed there. I really don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. It's just in the most randomest spot in the mines, but whatever. That's how it goes. So it's password protected. So only basically Tom or someone close to him can figure out what the heck it is, instead of just a random stranger, which again is very smart. But I know, age of hacking, it could easily be hacked. But just for the sake of simplicity, that's the solution there. So Tom starts trying. It's a power fist with the sun or the moon, I believe it was, and they're going through many different permutations of it. And they eventually crack on the first black man that landed on the moon to be the answer to this key, and it's the right one. And I remember there was a story between Tom and Z earlier in the episode where they're just talk about like an old time where they used to like, hack into Tom's dad's stuff, and they got a bunch of fancy watches from the safe so they can use for a party, which supposedly Tom never, I guess Tom always just thought that his dad never figured it out, so they got away with it scot-free. But no, with this riddle, it's like, nope, I knew about it. So there's gonna be some choice words for Tom when he does get back on the Earth. So they grapple back up. Sadly, the family's goons and the son itself show up to kind of start berating Tom for, going in there without his permission. That's breaking the law because you're breaking into private property. But Tom, snaps to him saying that, you left me alone in those mines many years ago. Because I'm trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice to you when we were kids, but all you were was a dick to me. Now I refuse to be nice to you, and you're still a dick with me. So at this point, you should shut up and just let me go on my merry way. This is when the guy admits that the only reason he was a dick to Tom because all of his life he's always been compared to Tom. Like, oh, you should be like Tom, or why aren't you like Tom? And I can kind of get that. Like, when your parents or people around you just start comparing you to another person, like, I'm not that other person. I'm myself. You really can't criticize me for doing my own thing because I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I'm just doing me. Like, you should be happy for what I'm doing, not because I'm not reaching up to someone else's potential. Like, that's different. So they sort of reach a stalemate. Like, it's not definitely like a big, like, oh, we're friends now moment, but it definitely is like, yeah, I can maybe tolerate you in the future, but we have an understanding of each other. So they're about to head back home. Z gets hit on by the dude. Z rejects him right away. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not dating someone like you. So they move on. So they head back to the lab. They start decoding it. However, of course, it's still, since it's only still just the one piece, they don't really have much to go on. But they are managed to get more specific locations on the remaining pieces. So the world tour will resume at some point in the future. But they have destinations, they have markers. So they're going to get everything ready for their next trip to wherever in the States they need to go to find these pieces. So they're getting ready on that. I remember, I also forgot that there's a big dinner coming up with the congressmen because both Tom, his mom, and Z get invited to it via the Bodyguard guy. So there's that bit of an awkward tension between him and Tom because they're not quite sure what each other knows about the other yet. So it's still like that game of like, I know you, but I don't know you. That sort of thing. I believe the last thing to note is, no, I don't think we're there yet. No. So Tom's mom is with Claire. And they're, just getting comfortable. She brought some sort of prototype serum that could help knock Tom's mom to sleep pretty easily. All it does is like you have to apply the gel into like the ends of certain nerves. So they do so, which it doesn't make her sleep, but it makes her very susceptible to answer anything. I think the closest comparison I've seen before on TV with this is when Barney from How I Met Your Mother basically got so drunk that he reached the point where it's like he could answer any question in the book and he would not decline to answer it. Which I should actually rewatch that episode. That was a funny one. Maybe soon. I mean, I have a lot of shows in my docket, but so at first Claire was like very innocently like trying not to take advantage of the situation. And I thought for a second, like, was this on purpose? Like, is she trying to trick her to like make her CEO? That's what I was thinking for a moment. But no, she just asked the question, what is it going to take for you to make me permanent CEO in the future? And she answers her, no. Tom, like our family built that company to be black owned, and Tom's dad would never allow me to give the company full time to someone who isn't black. And Claire just has to hear this, and honestly, I do get the reasoning behind it. I mean, it is this preservation of legacy within the family. But I do understand Claire's point that she worked her ass off, and if it wasn't for that rule, she would be the next CEO, like the next successor. But it's just not like that, sadly, right now. So who knows what Claire's going to do with this truth serum down the road? So we'll see. It's another potential avenue for storylines as we progress further with the story. So the team splits up. I know that Tom kind of tasked the bodyguard to kind of keep an eye on the other bodyguard. There's so many bodyguards in this damn show. And this is where Tom starts noticing that Barclay has a glitch in his system. he looks at the source code and realizes that, yeah, there was actually a pretty big virus in him, a pretty big hack on him, that right now certain transcripts of what they're doing and what they're recording is basically being recorded and sent in very cryptic text messages to the receiver. But eventually, if this problem persists, then they could eventually get full video files, full text files, the whole shebang from this AI app. So they do a little bit of a test run where they're trying to figure out who has the receiver end. It's the other bodyguard. So Tom's bodyguard wants to get in there and fuck him up, but Tom's like, no, I got a different approach here. I got a different game here. So he decides to record a selfie video of him basically calling out the bodyguard, saying that, hey, I know what you're doing. You want to meet up? And that's where the episode ends. So for me, I think this was a solid episode. Again, it tempered my expectations because I thought this was going to be that let's go to different random stops in the city, in the States type of feel for a show, but it's not. And which is fine, which is very fun. I'm appreciate that we instead got this character story about, you know, Tom and his upbringing, why he is what he is now. Continuing expanding the Swift side of the universe, you know, trying to figure out who the other characters are, who are just the other members in their circle. That was nice to see. I also like the fact that, what was I going to say? Damn, my brain's a little bit sloggy here. I apologize. I've been recording something else for another channel today, but honestly, yeah, I just really enjoyed the way like we got to actually see growth between, especially Tom and Z, as they continue their kind of new, like they've always been friends, but like they're strengthening their adult friendship now more than ever, with like having a much more deeper level of trust and respect, which is what you definitely need to do when you're in a team, that, you know, you have to have those team building moments. This was one of them, and I appreciate it. Not really a big fan of how slow Tom is to, like, you know, not really be like going full speed on trying to find all these pieces. I understand they're trying to break down the story and, you know, do the right pace of it to get us to those 10 or 13 episode mark, but I do find it to be a little bit slow. That I thought this was going to be something easier to knock out, but it isn't. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe the pace will increase next week or the week after that. We'll see how it goes. But for me, I really enjoyed this episode. I think we're on to a pretty good start with the show now that we're past the first episode, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes, however long it may be. So I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Tom Swift? I'd love to have the discussion down below with you. So let me know. Hit me up. So I think that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the first season of Tom Swift. If you want to see more of us from What's the Two, we're currently doing Walker and Under the Banner reviews each and every week after brand new episodes on the CW and Hulu. So go check them out there. If you only care about Tom Swift, you're in luck. We'll be back next week for another episode review. So go check us out till then. But again, this has been What's the Two from ActionX. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next episode review is live. Please also follow social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for our channels. And also like, favorite, share if you want to. But until we see each other again, for all you Swifters out there, till next week. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.